On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino, we recap OU's 73-0 win over Arkansas State. We also talk about Colorado's win over TCU and Utah's win over Florida, and we give you our winners and losers of the weekend. We're looking at you, Texas Tech. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right, our man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Sunday, September 3rd, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented Riverwind Casino. Riverwind Casino is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack match, roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And to learn more about their gaming promotions and entertainment options in the month of September, all you got to do is visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, simply the best. Now we're recording this Sunday morning. Wait, it's 11:08 a.m. That's morning, right? It's not afternoon because it's not afternoon. That's how that works, correct?
That's right. And we'll be recording this morning and afternoon, probably.
Yes, we have a lot to talk about, right? Please leave us a 5-star review and a nice comment while you're at it. Ted, first one in the books, 73-0. There's only so much you can complain about, right? When Oklahoma wins 73-0. But the way that this works, if you are new to the podcast, Teddy is going to break down what he saw from the defense. I'm going to break down what I saw from the offense. Our whole objective is to be as fair as possible, right? And that means fair with our criticisms and fair with our praise. So if you're new, that's kind of how this thing's work. That thing works. That's the best way to describe it, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yes, that's it. Just trying to give the best overall picture to what we believe happened out there.
Yeah. So first and foremost, Arkansas State, not a good football team. Let's just acknowledge that at the start. Not a good football team. Not a lot of talent out there for the Red Wolves on the field. But with that, now that we have that out of the way, when the defense pitches a shutout, we start with the defense, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of good and some bad, Ted. What did you think about the defense's performance?
Yeah, well, it's interesting whenever, because you mentioned Arkansas State, not a good football team, and it makes it difficult sometimes to evaluate. And it's not just because of what you think that, well, it's so one-sided that it's hard to tell if your guys are actually doing any good. That's not the case. It becomes messy, and it's not. The game isn't played how a typical game is played. Right? So Arkansas State they know they can't stack up very well. So a lot of things they do offensively, you're just not going to see from like in a typical game. Right? You're going to see drop back pass, and Arkansas State did hardly any drop back pass because they know they couldn't protect it. So like you hear like some of the criticisms that are floating around out there is OU's pass rush wasn't any good. Well, wasn't any good mainly because Arkansas State didn't do any drop back pass. They had like 3 snaps the entire game of drop back pass. So things get muddy. But that being said, I thought there was a lot of good. If we want to start with the defensive line, which I think we should, list of guys that I thought played well. I thought Jonah Lu'ulu played well. He had a really good read on a screen on one play. He had a couple of really nice rushes. He looked strong. The length, I think, helps him. I think he is best whenever there is a defined gap that he is penetrating and shooting. He seems to have a lot of push. The other guys on the interior I thought were strong, pad level at times too high. We had a lot of movement. So, it can be way more difficult to just straight up grade how do we do against double teams and how do we do, against the run, because a lot of times we're kind of moving flat because Venables had a lot of blitzes dialed up. There was a lot of pressure. So all in all, I think it was pretty good. Pad level overall for the group needs to be better for the interior guys, but I thought Lu'ulu stood out. Guys on the edge, I thought Trace Ford looked really good. He's the most explosive pass rusher we have that's consistent. But didn't get a lot of opportunities. He's got, a majority of the time he's got a tight end and a wing over him. So he's got like a real wide looping rush, but a couple times I thought he looked pretty good in there. Ethan Downs had a really nice rush on the sack that he had. It was really nice. Now it was a fall back, quarterback, drop back. There was no pressure on him in the pocket, good coverage downfield. He steps up and Ethan Downs retraces his steps and comes back and makes a sack, but he looked really strong with his hands and good job staying alive. That was a nice play by him. Number 34, PJ, he flashed a couple of times. Get off was great. He had a really great get off and ran the hoop on one. And I think we may have had a bust from an interior defensive lineman. We had like a pirate on one side. There should have been like a loop contain. And if the loop contain was there, maybe he's able to chase that quarterback down and get a sack. But great get off, uses his length well, but you could tell he's just scratching the surface. But again, was the defensive line great? No, it wasn't great. Was it good? Yes, it was good. How was the pass rush? Solid. Not anything I'm worried about now. We'll see. We'll have a much better understanding how our pass rush is against SMU. I'm not too worried about it right now. We'll see. I thought all in all, the depth showed, the rotation on our defensive line showed, and I really don't have a whole lot to complain about those guys. Pad level, I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt on pass rush. Effort, I thought was good. Just overall, I'd grade it pretty strong. I mean, again, hard to really be too critical and hard to really give too much praise in this situation.
Yeah, right. I think that's a really good way of putting it. I agree. As I went back through the tape, Laulu was the standout in the interior for me as well. One thing that I thought was interesting, now they shut the run game down completely, right? There was very little movement, if any, right, that Arkansas State's offensive line got. But one thing I didn't see that I was hoping to see more of, and I think you're right, it had a lot to do with the movement, but I want to see knockback, right? Mm-hmm. Where you can see it, those guys coming out of their stance, and you can see them jolting those offensive linemen, standing them up, forcing them to play with high pads. I don't know, man. I didn't see as much of that. I know this is nitpicky. Like, I understand that. I didn't see as much of that as I was hoping to see. Is that fair?
Yep. A lot of it is because we're moving flat on a lot of blitzes. You're right there. But I did see, and this was more, I think this is like the third team guys that I saw kind of catching.
Yeah.
I anticipating the blocker coming to you, and instead of firing off the ball and making the offensive lineman react to what you're doing, it was one of those like mutual combat things. We'll just kind of meet in the middle. And, that's just kind of where guys settle in maybe a little bit too much to the game. But I do agree with that. Wasn't a lot wasn't as much knockback as I wanted to see. A couple of times it was really nice.
Yeah.
Some penetrating stuff. And I personally prefer to play things straight way more, but in college that you don't get nearly as much anymore of people playing things straight. There's a lot of movement, and a lot of that is trying to flush a runner to one side because of the coverage we have on the back end. We're strong on one side and we're weaker on another. We need to put this running play in a certain spot to where we can defend it with decent numbers. So, but I do agree. I would like to see more, I guess, aggression, more, get off.
Yeah, and it's more, and I think you and I have a similar philosophy on this. Is all the movement can only get you so far.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, it's you versus that guy or those two guys across from you, right?
Yep.
And you got to be bigger, badder, tougher, more technically sound than the guy across from you along the defensive line. So I think you're right. I think we're going to learn a lot more about this group as a whole next week, because SMU, right? They're a good football team.
Yep.
They're a good football team. It's going to be a much better test for that group up front. Now, any other thoughts on the D-line before we talk some linebackers?
I think that's it. I think I covered the guys that stood out for the most part. Yeah. Overall, solid. Didn't blow me away, but for week one, acceptable. We'll see if we continue to get better.
Yeah.
Linebackers. A lot of guys played. I thought the group as a whole was pretty good. The depth was pretty good. I think a higher level of play as an overall unit compared to last year by far. Guys that stood out, I thought Stutzman, and we've talked about this before. He had 4 tackles, I think was the final number. The better defense you play as a team, the less numbers you're going to have statistically. So whenever you scan the box score and see that Stutzman had 4 tackles, I think a lot of people's thought is, boy, he didn't do much. He didn't show. That's not the case at all. I thought he was really good. I thought he had great command of the defense. One of the things I noticed compared to last year, way more under control, way more square to the line of scrimmage as you need to be, which comes from being in the right place, being, lined up properly. You can play square. Whenever you're not, and you're scrambling to get into position, you end up with your shoulders turned to the line of scrimmage and you're trying to go flat to get into position. I thought he did really good. There was a couple of tackles he made that I thought were, in the past, he would have gone, maybe attacked it too much, been a little bit out of control, and maybe he was either going to have a big hit or he was going to flat out miss. And in my opinion, that's not the world you want to live in at linebacker. Yeah, you can get some good blow up shots, but you have to know when to make the decision to make a good, safe, physical tackle. And I thought I saw more of that from Stutzman. Kanik, I thought overall pretty good. I think there was a handful of mental mistakes in there. Some of it's hard for me to kind of decipher what they're doing defensively and where exactly he needs to be. But there were a couple of plays where the athleticism flat out showed, but a lot of it showed because he was late being to where he was supposed to go, which is 100% to be expected with where he is on his journey as a linebacker. But I thought it was overall a good, solid first performance for him as a first start. He got a lot of good reps in there. I thought Kip Lewis probably flashed more than anyone at backer. He and Kobe McKenzie. There were mental mistakes in there for Kip Lewis, a couple of them, and I think one of them was maybe really big, but he can run, man. He can flat out fly, and he's got some really good instincts. And guys that have really good instincts, sometimes there's like this push and pull going on. I know my responsibilities here, but I know the ball's going here. And that can get you into trouble sometimes, and it can also lead to some indecision. Do I trust my instincts, or do I do what I'm supposed to do? And learning to make those decisions properly 100% of the times takes a little bit of time. But he had a great play on the screen. There was a couple of really nice plays in the run game where he spiked it and attacked it downhill. Here's the thing about Kip Lewis is I don't know what his overall responsibility grade is going to look like. But what I know is whenever he's in, he's a factor a lot. And that's one of the things that coaches look at is who's around the ball, who's making plays, who has production, who's a factor in what we're doing defensively. And Kip Lewis is a factor. So I thought that was good. Kobe McKenzie, I thought showed really well. He's another guy that I don't know exactly that he was in the exact spot with what they were doing defensively, but he makes plays. He makes plays. He makes tackles. When they're in the box, when he's making plays in the box, I mean, you're not going to push him around. You're not going to get movement off of him. And whenever he's making a tackle on you, he's a knockback tackler. So overall, I thought the backers, where we're starting in game one as a group, night and day from a year ago.
Good to hear. I'll say this, just being down on the sideline, and I know, once again, it was Arkansas State. Stutzman's, his vibe, just way more confident.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And just way more sure of what he was doing and what they were doing defensively as a whole. It stood out to me. Right? There were a couple times last year, just kind of wide-eyed, looking a little stunned. And I know they're beating the absolute hell out of this team, but just, I don't know, he just had a different demeanor to me.
Yeah, think about this. When you just watch the film, last year it was a constant that as the film comes on, it's a fire drill defensively getting lined up, right?
Right.
Everyone's scrambling and moving into position as the ball is snapped. You don't see hardly any of that. I mean, there's still times, right? And Arkansas State threw some shifts and some motions. They went trips into the boundary a couple of times. They went end over a couple of times. So they threw some things at us. It wasn't like they lined up in the same formation the entire day. And for the most part, again, going back to overall defense, it wasn't the fire drill. And I credit Stutzman for being way more in command of the defense. So I thought that was good.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you on Kip Lewis. I mean, you turn it on and you're like, it seems like that guy knows where the ball's going to go.
Yep.
I mean,
he's got some great instincts. He's just got to, he hasn't played a whole lot of live football, so it was good to see him get out there and get some reps. I thought it was interesting, they tinkered with it a little bit. Stutzman at Mike, Kip Lewis at Will. That's something to watch. I thought Kanik was good, but if we get into the season and we're struggling at Mike Backer, that's something that we may look for, because Mike is way more difficult to play than Will, and Stutzman's playing Will. What you want to do is you hope to have a guy that's really solid at Mike that can handle everything, and then Will's your playmaker. All right, he can go make the place where you're covered up a little more. So right now it's we're a little off. They want Stutzman at Will where he can fly around and he can make the plays that you need to make. But if we can't get there at Mike Backer, they may tinker with that some.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, let's move on to the secondary. Played a lot of guys, man. A lot of guys out there. What'd you think? What stood out?
I thought it was good. We had a couple of free runners through the back end. There was a couple of times I thought they had some open wide receivers, but the quarterback didn't have time to go to secondary and third looks. But overall, I thought it was good. I thought Bowman had a really nice play on a deep ball. You could tell just take this year to last year and compare the deep balls, how many times did we get called for pass interference for not finding the football?
Lots.
Over and over and over. And we saw several times in this game, guys in position and maybe even beat a little bit, but finding a way to get physicality and turn around and find. If you turn around and find the ball, much lower percentage chance of getting that pass interference call. And I thought we were great on that. Woody Washington had a really nice one doing that. So I thought that was good to see. I felt like we were in much better position. Again, going back to Stutzman being in command, I think it's the same thing with Bowman on the back end. Not a lot of fire drills as the ball's being snapped. Oh my gosh, we're supposed to be rotated here. Last second, we got guys trying to run into position as the ball snapped. Didn't see a whole lot of that. So that was good. I thought Reggie Pearson looked really good. He can tackle. He attacks the line of scrimmage. When he's down in the run game, he is coming. I thought he looked really good. Again, Woody Washington was clean, had a nice play on a deep ball. You didn't hear a lot from him, and that's typically means you're playing pretty good at corner. All in all, pretty good. Now, Cheetah, I thought Harrington looked good. It was a weird game for the Cheetah position. You know, they had a lot of, like, formationally, he was kind of out of the mix a lot, if that makes sense.
He's kind of pulled away from the core a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was kind of weird. And, you know, we blitzed a ton. And a lot of the blitzes, he's coming away from the outside on the edge. I'd like to see him, and this goes back to, I don't exactly know the coaching points. For me, I don't care if they know if we're blitzing. That doesn't matter. People are good at identifying blitzes these days. Used to, you could surprise people with blitzes. That's not the case anymore. They know it's coming. Line your ass up and come. Quit. We don't need to keep trying to disguise it whenever everyone in the stadium knows we're blitzing. That's just giving them more time. I thought he was late a couple of times, but they may not want that. They may want it, show the look, and then like you're a secondary guy coming later. I thought he ran well. I thought he tackled well. You see what he brings to the Cheetah position early in the game. He's lined up over number 2. We're bringing a blitz. He doesn't have much help over the top. He's in a pedal. They just throw like a little 5-yard hitch. Pedal, drive. He snaps his hips. His feet are in good position. He drives, and it's a catch tackle. If you have a linebacker right there, it ain't going to look like that. It's a linebacker's out in space. He doesn't have help. He's going to back up way more. He's going to be slower to put his foot in the ground and come up and attack it. So I thought that was good. Deshaun McCullough didn't get a whole lot of reps, but he did make a play whenever he was out there. And what they were in was interesting because, and we saw this last year. If you'll remember back to last year, our defense, the first 3 games compared to what it looked like the rest of the season, was almost totally different. It's like when we went to play Nebraska, it's like they flipped a switch and we were in something like totally foreign. And that's what it was in that play. They had 3 down. They had 2 inside backers. They had Justin Harrington was still at Cheetah. And Deshaun McCullough was like, I don't know if you call him a spinner, like a deep spinner, but he was kind of in no man's land. And on the snap, we ran a strange version of cover 2 where Harrington was over the slot and bailed and went and played half field. So we had 2 half field players, and Harrington played it from here. One of the safeties that's in the half field comes to the middle and plays. We essentially played Tampa, where the deep safety has the run through, but he plays it from depth. And it was weird, but it was effective, and we made a nice play there. So all in all, I thought that was pretty good at the Cheetah spot. I mean, it was a weird game for it. Didn't stick out a whole lot, but I thought it was solid.
Yeah, and unfortunate that McCullough got rolled up the way that he did.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and he was in a boot on the sideline. Right, seems like a high ankle situation. So you start wondering the availability for SMU, right? That's where, I was really hoping to see how they were going to use him in a variety of ways. And unfortunately, get rolled up and his day was over. But I'm with you on Pearson, man. That's one of those 15-yard penalties where I'm like, you know what? It is what it is, right? Like a little tone setting 15-yarder. Sometimes it happens. But yeah, I thought in the back end, they cannot make some of the coverage mistakes that they made, right? Cutting guys loose against better football teams with better athletes, right? That's going to cost them. But it didn't in this situation. And now Venables has it to where he can scream at these guys and say, this cannot happen. Like we cannot have these types of mistakes. So overall, there's just not much to complain about when you talk about the secondary as a whole.
I did forget to mention, I thought Peyton Bowen looked pretty good. Wasn't out there as much as I thought he was going to be.
Agreed.
But he made a really nice play on that strip that Kenai Walker had. Bowman comes from depth, great angle, nice square, physical, but safe tackle. He doesn't go lunging out of control, makes a really nice flush tackle. Kenai Walker comes in and gets the strip. I thought that was really good. And that overall defensively, we were way more under control, right? We didn't have guys flying and lunging and diving at people. Good defenses don't play that way. Now, whenever you line it up and you make the big hit, okay, you get a highlight. Like, how many highlights are we used to over the past 5 years of guys blowing someone up? But, we gave up 600 yards of offense that day, right? Those things don't match up. Under control, make the safe tackle, make the sure tackle. There's times when you line guys up, line them up, and deliver some punch physically to set a tone. But we didn't have guys out of control, flying and lunging at ball carriers. It was good.
Yep, I'm with you. All right, anything else?
I think that's it. Is there anything else that stuck out to you? Again, 34, he's flashing. He's coming.
Yeah, he's coming. If he doesn't become a bigger part of what they're doing in the back half of the season, I'll be very surprised. I mean, the guy just stands out compared to every other individual on the football team, on the defensive side, at least. Like you see him go out on the field and you're like, yep, that's what it's supposed to look like.
When you have an offensive tackle that's going like that.
Looked like a toddler. Just
Now, he tried to get to it later and got his feet crossed up and went to the ground. But and some of that stuff's going to happen. He's still learning some of these things, but he's coming around, man. I didn't see, now responsibility wise, again, some of that stuff could be difficult, but I thought he was pretty solid. And, he came in late after that offensive line had been beat around quite a bit, but he's, for game one for him, outstanding.
Yeah. And you just think about things that they struggled last year, right? With as a defense, stopping the run. Right. I know Arkansas State, they're not any good, but they couldn't run the ball at all. 2 of 12 on third down. Right. That's always that's extremely positive. So I think as a starting point for this defense, really good starting point, right?
Yeah. I think it's, again, like, if you just want to really generalize it as like, what did we see? Great starting point, night and day difference from where we were last year. Way more under control as a defense. Way better getting lined up, knowing where we're supposed to be. That doesn't mean it was perfect, but overall, we're in much better position than a year ago. It's a great starting point.
All right, let's talk about what we saw from OU's offense. But first, Love's Travel Stops is now offering a nationwide 10-cent per gallon discount on gas and auto diesel. Just download the Love's Connect app and scan your barcode at the prompt on screen and watch that price drop 10 cents per gallon. Across the country, the Love's Connect app unlocks exclusive deals, can help any traveler plan their route or meal on the highway. So before you hit the road, be sure to download the Loves Connect app to save 10 cents per gallon and experience the country's best highway hospitality at Love's Travel Stops. Love's also has you covered if you forget your phone charger or headphones with their expanded mobile to-go zone. And of course, don't forget to grab yourself some of that delicious Java Amore.
It's hunting time in Oklahoma. Am I going to have to say it like that forever? Or now?
Yes. Yes.
If you're looking to buy some hunting property, the Land Doctors can help you find the ideal ranch. They build custom hunting lodges and lakes and can turn Oklahoma's raw land into your personal playground. If you'd like to sell some land or simply want to add to your portfolio, give Colton Cole a call at 405-615-7645 or visit landdoctors.com.
And celebrate with a Schooner All-American Ale, the official craft beer of OU Athletics from Coop Aleworks. Named after the iconic Sooner schooner that races across Owen Field after an OU scored. Those ponies were tired on Saturday. My goodness.
Yes, they were.
You can join in on the celebration with an ice-cold beer from Coop Aleworks. You can enjoy it at the Palace on the Prairie, at OU Athletics events, at the bar, at the tailgate, and in the comfort of your own home. For more information on Schooner All-American Ale, visit SchoonerAle.com. Must be 21 to purchase. Please drink responsibly. Schooner All-American Ale, the taste of game day. All right, OU's offense. 73, that's a lot of points. That's good. That's very, very good. Now let's start with the quarterback position. Ted, I thought Dylan Gabriel was really efficient. Looked good. I thought he made a lot of good decisions and all the RPO stuff. And, man, they ran a lot of that stuff. Right. And I thought he made really nice decisions, throwing the bubbles, throwing the quicks, throwing those speed outs in those situations. And I thought his accuracy on those short throws, it wasn't good. It was excellent.
Perfect shoulder, was leading him up the field when he needed to.
Excellent.
And they had zip. Was it more zip than last year?
Looked pretty zippy to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, he had a few really nice deep balls. You think about the early one to Andrell Anthony, the one to Jaden Gibson, Nick Anderson, right? Had some really nice throws. But I did think he was a beat late on some of the other ones, right? You think of the one that Andrell Anthony, where the guy just absolutely tackled him, but he's late.
Yeah.
Right? And especially when the Oklahoma wind is blowing, man, you can't be late.
I thought that one, and maybe I'm wrong, but I thought because the way everything had gone, we were in a good spot. I thought that one was almost just being a little showy.
Like a YOLO ball? He was like, watch this.
Yeah, trying to throw one real high and let him run under it because, like, the play on that one you're talking about late, he had him right away and should have just punched it on a line to him to get it there.
Yeah, so I think he'll get the timing on some of those things cleaned up. Right, he'll be a beat earlier as opposed to a beat late. I mean, 308 yards, 3 total touchdowns. It's not a bad start to the season, and I think people got to see what we've been talking about, right? When it comes to his improved mobility, just moving around really well. Now the protection was solid, wasn't perfect, right? But it was solid, and I thought he really showcased, even the touchdown run he had. Right? The pocket mobility, getting out, look fast, running into the end zone there. But overall, starting quarterback looked good.
I totally agree. Kind of like Stutzman, who looked way more calm, way more in command. I thought the same thing of Gabriel, and he looked totally confident, was just comfortable out there being the leader of the offense. And, I think it was, you can see when a guy has total command of an offense. And I thought I saw that from Dylan Gabriel last year. I mean, not that he didn't have command, but he just looks like he belongs there, way more comfortable.
Yeah. And more explosive plays in the passing game, right? With, once again, Arkansas State, I get it. But I thought he was more aggressive with the football, just pushing it down the field. And I continue to expect to see more of that. Now, the backup quarterback looks awesome. He looked really good. Same thing. Made really good decisions in the RPO game, right? Throwing it out to Petaway on those bubbles, in those situations. He was extremely accurate with those throws. Loved basically the jump ball he threw to Jaden Gibson. Like, hey, let the big guy go get it. Right.
Yeah.
I love that mentality. And Levy busted out some QB power lead for Jackson Arnold.
I know it. I liked it. It was
Which
good.
that is some good stuff. And it scored the rushing touchdown. Thought he showed the athleticism in those situations as well. One thing I really like, when they're moving the pocket, which it essentially turns into boot with levels routes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love how you can clearly see on the tape, he is looking deep to medium to short. Like this is not a check down guy, right? And it's almost, he was pissed he had to throw the short one. He's like looking, moving, and eventually gets it. I think that was Petaway in that situation as well. But clearly an extremely talented guy. And I think he's got such a bright future at quarterback. And I was glad the fans got to see it. I mean, it's exciting. It is.
The quarterback power thing is interesting, which I love that play. I imagine we're going to see Kansas State run it a lot this year, but it's interesting that they ran it. They didn't run it with Dylan Gabriel. They ran it with Jackson Arnold, and they ran it with Davis Bevel. He got hurt on it, but they were coming out, so it was a little bit different situation. I'm curious if that's going to be a short yardage and goal line package for Jackson Arnold.
Well, one thing I know,
hit it in the overall drives that he was in, because you can do a lot off of that play.
There's no doubt about it. Now I know this. SMU's got to rep it now.
Yep.
Right? You got to spend practice time on that. So, but yeah, it was clear to me that Levy had some stuff that he likes for Arnold, right? I bet if you look at the play sheet, 10's got his section where there's some differences than what they're doing with 8.
Yep.
Right? So, I mean, it's fun to watch, though. Okay, moving on to running back. Marcus Major, Tawee Walker, Javonte Barnes, saw a lot of all three of those guys. And honestly, for me, not a ton of difference between them.
Agree.
I thought they all had pretty similar days. I thought they ran with physicality. I thought they were decisive. Barnes had the few catches. That was all the contribution they had in the pass game. Did anyone kind of stand out among that group of three? Right? Did anyone kind of stand out to you? Because I kind of thought they all looked about the same.
No one really broke one, which
right.
Sometimes that's not going to happen. I don't remember an instance that stood out as one should have been broken. Like, it was just a pure one-on-one. I don't think anyone really stood out. I think maybe Barnes looked like he had just a little bit more juice, a little bit more potential to break one.
He looked like he had the most speed of that group.
Right.
But he also looked like he took the longest to cut. Does that make sense?
His pad level was a little high on some of them too.
Yeah, a little choppy. Not you hear it all the time, right? Stick your foot in the ground, get north and south. Right. That is a saying in the running back world for a reason. It was like 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of 1.
Yep.
So, and you think about coming off the foot injury, the surgery in the spring, like, is that a factor? I don't know, but there was not a wow factor at running back for me.
Agree.
And
I agree with that.
I don't think I expected there to be one, but I mean, the two freshmen were the ones where when I was watching tape, I was like, ooh,
yeah,
okay. Like, I thought Smothers and Hicks both looked really good. Like the suddenness that Smothers has, and then the best word I could come up for Hicks was like just horsepower, man.
Yeah,
just horsepower.
He has it all,
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't feel bad about about the running back room, but there wasn't, from that starting, what you would view kind of as that starting group of 3 guys, there weren't any wow plays that just like jump off the tape.
I totally agree. I think this group, it's going to be a strength in numbers situation over we've got just an outstanding blow your socks off standout guy, which you'd prefer to have the standout guy that's just unbelievable until he rolls his ankle and your backup is a huge fall off. And that's whenever that whole thing falls apart. This group, I don't think you're going to have it doesn't look like we're going to have a conference leader in rushing, but as a backfield, the fact that you can throw 5 guys at someone and not have any fall off is rare. And that factors in. If I don't expect they're not going to play 5 guys every game, but to be able to really play physical, tough, hard running football and rotate that between 3 guys and be pretty much the same across the board, that's pretty good.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Now, I was a little surprised Arkansas State didn't test those guys in pass protection a little more, but when you can't stop anything as a defense, I mean, there's only so much you can target, right? When you're just having trouble stopping everything. But overall running back group, thought it was solid. Just didn't wow me.
Are we worried, not so much at running back, but just running game overall? Are we worried we didn't break longer runs?
So, and this is something we've talked about on here before, right? You look at what they did in the running game on Saturday. A lot of variety, good variety, right? Variations of counter. You got the GT counter, the other one where I call it GY counter, right? Where the tight end is the second puller. You got variations of inside zone, split zone, zone insert. They do their inside zone basically is designed to just cave the entire backside down and then cut off all of that. Mm-hmm. Right. The thing about, and they ran some split zone. They're running this. It's kind of like an outside zone, like a wider split zone concept. And I love seeing it because you know how I feel about wide zone, but I'm just going to be straight up. They're not very good at blocking it. Right. I think if you don't run outside zone a lot, right, if it's not really one of your staple kind of core plays, you're typically not that good at blocking. Yep. And I was not overly impressed with the way that it looked. This is the reality of the run game for me. The concepts that are their bread and butter concepts, they just don't create a ton of space, right? You think about the counter, the way they're doing inside zone, like you gotta really maul guys at the line of scrimmage and move them against their will. There's not a ton of things where the defensive line have to run horizontally, right? And that's where you create movement where, not to get too scientific, but like their vector of force is going sideways instead of straight at you. Mm-hmm. Right. And you use that, right? You use your force and the angle that you're taking to make them move. And really the variables that creates bigger running lanes. There's not a ton of that. When you saw them get space, it was actually the pin pull stuff, right? Which I was excited to see. They got Rouse out there on the edge. And he just buried the corner both times. And then the most space they saw, they ran wham. I mean, they ran wham and kind of fold exchanged the front side of it, which loved it. But they ran it one time. Tawi Walker, the hole was massive. But other than that, the running back group was, I mean, they're just operating in tight spaces. Mm-hmm. But there were not a bunch of, lanes created where they've got, 5, 6, 8 yards of space to make a guy miss. Those situations just weren't there. And I think it's not that the offensive line didn't play well. I think it's more of a conceptual thing than anything.
No, I agree with that. I understand.
Was that too much? I feel like I went real deep in the weeds right there. Sorry if somebody's listening to that going, what in the world?
No, it's easy to explain. Like, I think of it as playing against it as a linebacker. It's way easier for me to play linebacker whenever my gap is right here. right? And everything is condensed. Now, as it goes wide and your defensive line is like trying to run and stay in gap, my gap is no longer right here. My gap is moving like flat. And I've got to go. And so everything just washes and it filters back to the linebacker. You can't come downhill with any punch. You're going lateral. If everything's condensed, you're going downhill with punch. You're peeling doubles off, and you're hitting linebacker or running backs flush. As everything widens and it's running lateral, everyone on the defensive side loses their punch. So,
and
yeah.
On the inside zone variations, right? It feels like the ball never goes front side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ever, right? So the defense, I don't think the defense ever feels, and they take inside footwork on the front side of it, right? Which restricts the space even more. Like, I don't think the front side of the defense in that concept, like they ever feel threatened, if that makes sense. So
yeah, you typically got to combine some type of stretch with inside zone, like you're used to. And I don't know what the running backs. I have to go back and look at it, but
they ran traditional
zone,
stretch one time to Blake Smith's side. Did not go once again. Like if it's not one of your staples, like it did not go very well. It's really lateral. Really lateral, as opposed to on the angle and like denting the front side, cutting off the back side. It just, and this is Arkansas State, man. So that's where the run game was, you look at the numbers and you go, they ran it well, and they did. But I just don't know. Where are the really, really explosive runs going to come from? Not only just what we saw from the concepts, but also what we saw from the backs. But I don't know. That's a question mark for me moving forward.
And I'm sure they're very basic, and they're going to build on some of those things. But a lot of it is kind of like you're talking about with outside zone. It's not necessarily something that you just build into the running game. It is a core staple, and you don't just not run it until later in the year and be like, this is what we're going to do. It's like it's built into everything you do offensively. It's like I played in Tampa 2 schemes. Everyone runs Tampa 2, but everyone sucks at it unless you're a Tampa 2 team and you run it. If you have 80 snaps a game, you run it 60 times.
Right.
And if you have 100 snaps in practice, you run it 90 times. Like it's all you do constantly. You get really good at. Same thing with that type of philosophy in the running game, I think.
Now, I will say this, right? Arkansas State, it's not like they gave them a bunch of light box looks, right? So there's a reason the space is constricted, right? And there's a reason they had so much success just throwing in the bubbles and throwing the quick slants on the outside, right? In the RPO game. It's a box count thing, right? If you're going to commit to the box, we're going to punish you with, and they view that, in my opinion, they view that just as an extension of the run game, right? You're getting 5, 6, 7 on those easy throws. That's just like a 7-yard run, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how they view it. So, I'm not trying to be overly critical. It's just something that, and you know me, man, like I think outside zone's the best play in football, right? I do. So that you have to keep that in mind when I'm kind of breaking down what they're doing conceptually, right? But yeah, they ran it efficiently. That cannot be debated.
Yeah, no, I ran it efficiently. We'll see where it goes and see what happens with it. And as they do build on some of the stuff that they're doing, hopefully we'll find the strengths and weaknesses of our backs a little bit better too, and who likes what a little bit better.
Yeah. Now, wide receiver wise, just want to say this. I was really pleased with the physicality they played with.
Agree.
Now, they ran routes with physicality, like getting guys' hands off them. It was noticeably different. And they battled on the edge as blockers and all the RPO stuff. And even in the running game, right? Like I was impressed. It's clear that Emmett Jones, he's got those guys playing with an attitude, and it was good to see. But just individually, Drake Stoops was on his way to having a big day before he hurt the shoulder.
Yeah, he was.
And what are the odds Bob's doing the radio broadcast with us and Drake gets hurt? I hated that. That sucked.
It's not good.
Not good. Did not like. Now, I talked to Drake on the sideline. AC separation. He basically said, hey, man, the trainers won't let me go back in. And he was not happy because he goes, I was going to have 200 yards, which is true.
Yeah.
But he was in good spirits. He's a tough guy. Hopefully, when you're talking about degrees of AC separations, like if it's a grade 1, it's just like a pain tolerance thing, right? You start getting into grade 2, grade 3, then that's a different conversation. But with as tough as that dude is, I'm not worried about it. This is the way I kind of framed it. If they were playing Texas, he maybe would have missed the series.
Yeah.
Right. And been back in. But I liked what I saw from him. I just hate that his dad, our coach, was on the radio call with us while he got hurt. Oh, brutal.
Luckily, he's a football coach and he's seen injuries a million times. So he took it in stride pretty easily. But yeah, that was not that's not the first time we do that segment too, right?
Yeah. First time we'd ever done it. Just brutal. Okay. Andrell Anthony, you see the speed, right? Now you're going to play better corners than what you saw on Saturday, right? And there's going to be more competitive situations, but guy stretches the field, right? And every defense they play, you got to know where he's at, right? Because he can stretch the field with that speed. Now, I am interested to see how Lebby builds off that speed, right? Because guys are going to feel threatened by what he can do vertically. So can they take advantage of defenses feeling threatened and get him to be a really good, like, deep comeback route runner, deep in breaking routes route runner, where you can find space because of the cushion that he's getting? I think that's something, him as a deep threat, I think they can build off that, Ted.
Yeah, I do too. Whenever you watch him, he's always his get off is great. They're always like tugging at his jersey and he's flying past it, which is what you want to see for a deep ball guy. But as you get to better corners, the deep ball is going to be more difficult, but that leaves him for comebacks and dig routes and stuff that you can build off of and like start to give him a little bit more variety. But yeah, I thought he was excellent, man. He's as advertised for the deep threat.
Yeah. Gavin Freeman, electric. The punt return, the touchdown, just get the guy the ball.
Yep.
Right? Dude has speed. And we'll see, maybe Stoops does have to miss some time. Right? And then that's going to result in more opportunities for Gavin Freeman. But it's just a guy who, when he touches the ball, you just get excited, right? Watching him.
Well, and that goes back to the competitive depth that we've been hearing a lot. And wide receiver is one of those where we've talked about they've got a lot of talent. We just got to see it in action. Well, you lose your starter in Drake Stoops during the game, and like you're young there behind him. Drake's been here forever, but the two guys that are young behind him, and Gavin Freeman and Petaway, they looked really good. I mean, you're probably not going to get the attention to detail and all of the things that Drake brings to that position, but they're athletic as heck behind him, and those guys had pretty nice days in his absence.
Yeah. Nick Anderson, they look really good, right? The speed, the athleticism, the route running. Man, if this guy can stay healthy, I mean, he's extremely talented. Jaden Gibson.
He blocked his ass off too, Nick Anderson.
Absolutely. And that matters.
Yeah.
Right? That matters. Like Emmett Jones is going to go, okay, you're doing the dirty work, right? You're doing the part of the position that isn't exactly fun.
6'4", 220 on the perimeter is not fun for a defensive back to try and fight off of and make a tackle.
No. And he did a really good job. Jaden Gibson made a couple plays out there. Exactly what we were hoping to see from him. Right? Hey, use that length and athleticism. Use that size.
I like that it's on film and the coaches are going to look at it. I think we're going to see a lot more jump balls his way. Why not?
Yeah.
And these quarterbacks are going to see that too and be like, that's a big target area. I'm just going to throw it in his general vicinity and let him go do the rest.
Yeah. And then Farouk, right? He's kind of just I don't even know how to describe what he is at this point.
I know.
It's like he's a utility player.
I agree.
It just you find ways to get him touches and he just gets yards, right? Had the near miss, almost had the touchdown, right? Down there in what was that, the south end zone?
Yep.
But yeah, just kind of a quiet, unassuming it almost kind of fit what we were hearing about him throughout training camp. Just goes about his business, but I'm not confused. I just don't know what to think of him really as a player.
Well, part of it is Nick Anderson 6'4", Jaden Gibson 6'5", Ted weighs 5'10". Like, you've got all these different body types. Like Farouk is like there's nothing like physically that stands out about him. But he just checks all the boxes. He can do a little bit of everything.
In math,
like,
yeah, in math terms, when you think mean, median, and mode, he's definitely not the mode.
Right.
More median.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's not a bad thing. I think he's just a well-rounded, can do everything that they ask of him type of wide receiver. But, physically doesn't have he's not, I don't think he's the fastest guy in the room. He's not the biggest guy in the room. He can do a little bit of everything.
I do like them getting him the ball kind of out on the edge in space. Mm-hmm. Right. I think he really thrives in those situations. Okay, moving on to tight end. Apparently Blake Smith's going to be a bigger piece of this team than I thought.
I thought he did good.
I thought he was, for what I was expecting, you're right. I thought he did really well. Now, I didn't go through and count the snaps, but it seemed like he played more than Stogner did, which is interesting. And honestly, he looked like he was moving better than Stogner was. So that's certainly something to keep an eye on moving forward. Now, neither of those guys is what I would consider a dominant blocker at the tight end position, but those dudes aren't scared. I mean, they are willing to stick their face in there and did a pretty nice job for the most part. Now, Smith had a nice play on the RPO situation out there on the perimeter, breaks a tackle for a long gain. But from a production standpoint in the passing game, kind of exactly what I thought it would be with what we've heard about that position throughout camp. But overall, thought the guys played with good physicality. I will say this. You can get away with it against Arkansas State. And they did it multiple times. And I'm telling you, please don't do it. Full slide protection where you leave the tight end on an island on a defensive end. Please don't do it. I'm just saying, please don't do that. And the back like inserts inside the tight end into the snap, like the running back didn't go help secure with the tight end at the end, like late. I'm telling you, I don't like it right now. Blake Smith just one-on-one with the defensive end, battling in pass protection. I hate it when NFL teams do it. And I saw a couple snaps of it. I was like, oh no, please no. And maybe they're just showing it to put it on tape, right? But please no. No, please.
There's usually a direct correlation to your quarterback getting folded into a pretzel and the origination of the player doing that going against a non-offensive lineman.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'm just saying, please.
Poor tight ends out there getting like run through by a defensive end. Yeah. That typically is where that comes from.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk some O-line. Walter Rouse, solid. Right. Loved seeing him get out on the edge, some of the pin pull stuff, buried the corner both times. Hey, there's only one word for that, and it's arousing. Yeah, you heard me. You heard me. Just going to keep it real. Arousing. Now, I thought technically in pass protection, Really good. Good hands, good feet, balanced. Love how he uses his hands. Like he gets his hands on guys, and then it's like vice grips, man. He brings them in and just holds the absolute hell out of them, just like you should, right? Uses the length, then reduces the space, and it clamps. Love it. It's good. You can tell. Dude has played a lot of football. He gets it. Now, he did get pulled a couple times in the run game. And it was a result of not bringing his hips on that initial snap and contact, right? Hands were in decent position, but got pulled a few times, which I think he'll be able.
Like you're leaned
little
over.
top heavy, right? You got to play with good pad level. And when you strike, you have to roll your hips to stay balanced. Yeah, it's like, think of like an airplane taking off, right? But I thought he looked good for the most part. I thought he looked like he was in really good shape as well. Like he had a pretty consistent level of play throughout the game, even when they were going in fast, but a really nice start for him at the left tackle spot. I was really pleased.
That's good. Consistency, size. He's got big size.
He also did the splits in the game. He did the split like straight up, like full on split. Now it wasn't what you want, but it was one of those where I stopped the tape and I was like, oh, pretty impressive flexibility from the young man. Way to go, Walter. I saw it, Walter. Good. I saw it.
That's good. If I ever did the splits in a game, season-ending injury.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, I'm very flexible these days. A lot of yoga. But, okay, moving on. Savion Byrd. Just a little underwhelming, man. I thought, this is the way I'm going to put it. It was hot. I thought he was kind of just surviving out there. Right? I did not see him. Now, he finished some blocks. Don't get me wrong. I did not see him playing with the edge, the physicality, the finish that I was expecting. A lot of snaps where he's kind of looking unsure of where he was supposed to go, right, in the run game. Just too many of those. I want to see him bury dudes. I want to see him in complete control of guys in the run game and in protection. I didn't see nearly enough of that from him. And it, to be fair, like my expectations of this guy are very high. I do not watch Savion Byrd with through the same lens as I watch McCade Matoyer. Okay. Right. One guy's physical ceiling is much higher than the others, and I judge them accordingly. So do I watch them all the same? No. Right. I think I watch them all fairly through my lens of their expectations, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And Savion Byrd's going to get better. There's no doubt. But frankly, I didn't think he played anywhere near where his talent level should have him playing at. I'm just going to be straight up.
Yeah. Well, and I think what is it? And I'm not suggesting what Lombardi, fatigue will make a coward of any man.
He was tired.
Right. And we've all been there to where it's like, I could fire off and bring everything in this situation, but it's the third or fourth play of the drive. We may be going 10 drives. I better keep a little bit in reserve. Right.
He had a couple of, and I watch every single play of the game. I grade every single play of the game for each offensive lineman on the field. Psycho move, I know, right? And he had multiple NTs. You want to know what NT stands for?
Let's hear it.
No touch. You can't block grass, brother.
Just one of these things?
You got to go find work.
Yeah.
Too many of those, and some just, hey, standing there, clearly tired, like, can't have it. I do not want to write no touch on the paper for him anymore.
No touch should be an RS, a rib shot to another guy that's getting blocked, right?
Fine work. Right? Now, there are a couple snaps where you see him moving, pulling, you're just like, oh my gosh. look at this guy. And that's where the frustration for me stems from, is those flashes. You got to find a more consistent level of play. Right? That's just where I'm at with him.
The problem is there's always when you're in a game, there's always the feeling of like your brain and your instinct is always telling you to slow down. Like, this is going to be a long day. It's hot. You like, slow down, save some. And I'm not suggesting that you have to be an absolute maniac on every single play. You really can't get there if you're in a real game when you're going to play 80.
With the tempo they play with, and there were 91 offensive snaps, by the way, 91.
It's a lot.
And with the tempo that they play with, like, I factor that in.
Right.
Like, hey, you're tired as hell. I get it. Right. It happens. You're not a robot. You're not a machine, despite what people want to think. But like you said, it's the third play of the drive. Let's go get it, young man. Come on now.
And here's the other thing, though, is when you're playing Arkansas State, this is the time to sell out and then like learn to play after you've done that. You know what I guess what I'm saying is, like, you need to go out and fail at being too tired instead of ending the game with something in reserve, if that makes sense. No.
Yeah. All right, Andrew Rame, I really liked what I saw. Now, a few snaps here and there where the pad level was just way too high, but using his hands much better in the run game and in pass protection. And maybe it's all the times I've told him to his face, like, dude, for the love of God, would you please grab and hold people? Please. And guess what he did? He was grabbing the hell out of people. Right. It was making his life easier. And within the framework, like, he wasn't holding. He was playing O-line, baby. And I thought he was much better in IDing all the things in the run game, where he was putting his eyes, all the things that he was doing from a footwork standpoint. It was much crisper, much more efficient, less panicked. It looked a lot better. Now, Arkansas State's defensive line stinks, but he put a couple of guys on their back, and one on the touchdown did a little like front flip maneuver. It was badass. I'm telling you, it was badass. Just flipped over the top of him, as I think it was maybe Major, went into the end zone. And it was good stuff. It was a really good starting point for a guy that I think is very talented, and a guy that I think could have a really, really good season. So I was fired up with what I saw from Rame on tape. Was it perfect? No, it wasn't perfect, but man, it was a hell of a lot better than what I saw from him early in the season last year, and I'm fired up about it, Ted. Let's go.
Great starting point. Yeah, I think Rame's got a high ceiling. He's battled through some stuff in his career. Good to see him what seems to be really healthy and in a good spot. I like it.
Now, one piece of advice for the young man, and if they're going to run this outside zone, little split zone action, right, you got to use your outside hand to grab people, man. You can't just rip that backside arm and hope to run with them and control them that way. You got to grab like hell with that front side hand and that backside hand. And when they're on the move, refs don't call holding. They don't call it. The only way that you're going to get called for holding in an outside action like that is if you stop your feet at the center spot and just like tackle a guy. Yep. If you're running, you got both hands on, you're grabbing and holding with that front side hand, they ain't going to call it. Yep. They're just not. It's just, there's too much going on for them to diagnose. I never got called for that once in my entire career, I don't think. So
yeah, it's only if you get out of position and hang on too long if you're beat,
right?
Or if you're tight with a guy and you go to the ground.
Yeah.
Like you get tangled and go to the ground.
But even it's complete. It's a different world for the tackle than for the center.
Yeah.
Like the tackle,
so much mess.
You can see everything. The center, it's just like mass chaos in there. You can get away with a lot, man. I'm telling you, a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just one thing. Now, McCade Matoyer took a shot to the hip from Marcus Major. Got him good. I think he was a little hobbled from that. You know,
He was pissed when he got up at that. Like, was he mad at the other offensive lineman next to him?
He was just mad at everything. I think he took like a shot straight to the hip and was just furious. And he was like on the bike on the sideline trying to keep it warm and everything. It's gonna hurt, man. I bet you that ain't feeling good today. But love the attitude, love the leadership he brings. He's a little more explosive, but he does not have a ton of explosiveness, right? Coming out of the stance. But this is what I know about him. The consistency there is there, and I feel like I'm getting everything he's got, man, on a consistent basis. So that's why I view him differently. Just like I said, I view him differently than Bird. Now, Guyton and him, they need to get on the same page more often, their communication where they're working in the run game, right? Where both of their eyes need to be, right? Too many times they got split on a couple times in the backside of some of the zone stuff. Can't happen, right? You got to know where you're going and you got to communicate it clearly. I know they're going fast sometimes, but still, you got to know where you're going. But Matoyer, I know what I'm going to get from him. That's where I'm at with the men. And I just, he's going to be solid. He's never going to wow you for the most part, but he's going to be solid.
Yeah. And there's a place for that, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He seems to be, and you heard Coach Venables allude to this. He seems to be in a really good spot leadership wise as well in this team.
Yeah, Tyler Guyton did some really good things, man. Some snaps of just pure dominance, right? His ability to explode and generate force out of his stance quickly is, I mean, it's impressive. Now, it's clear to me he is going to be teetering on that edge of a 15-yard penalty constantly. Good. Right? Which I'm all for, honestly. I'd rather a guy play like that than to, be talking about him the other way. I thought like the physical tools, the way that he moved in the run game, his patterns in his sets, like I thought it was really good. Now, his eyes, that's what's going to get him in trouble, right? A couple times getting you just peaky.
Yeah.
I'd like, hey man, where you're supposed to go. Just keep your eyes in the right place. And if he can iron some of that out, which I think is very easily correctable, this dude's only going to get better, man. He's still kind of raw as a player, but it definitely looks more polished than it did at the end of last season. And the ceiling remains ridiculously high, right? I think as he gets in a groove throughout the season, I think he's going to get better and better.
What'd you think of that hold? It's more of like an unnecessary.
That's the best way to put it.
But it's not a hold.
No, it was more of just laying on top of a guy and smushing him.
Yeah, it's a smush. Like he folded the guy over at the waist and then just kind of
my note is, and that took a touchdown off the board, right?
I know. That's why I'm asking, because
now it ends up, I guess, not being that big of a deal, right? You won 73-0. But my note on that, and that was the 40th offensive snap, I wrote, hold. Did you really need to do that? But once again, I'd rather him play with that edge than not. Right. And if you get a couple holds because you're trying to embarrass a guy and his entire family, then hey, so be it every once in a while. Now, you can't do it all the time, but every once in a while, okay.
He held him on that play and then left him sprawled on the field next play.
And let him know it. And also let the official know it, I think, which
the guy was lifeless on the field after the next play. The Arkansas State staff had to run out there
like a corpse on the field. It was great. All right, Ted, let's get to call your shot. We got one response that I think sums up the game really well. We asked you guys for your number one takeaway from the win. This one comes from @VinnyNeckVeins, who says, quote, there was a marked difference. Marked?
Yeah, I never know how that's supposed to be pronounced.
I don't think I've ever used that in a sentence in my entire life.
I've avoided it because of this very dilemma.
Let's go with market sounds fancier. Let's go with that.
It does.
There was a marked difference with this football team than what we saw on video. They're tough. They're physical. I thought they out-athleted us. The speed differential is the most glaring I've seen in my career. That quote comes from one Butch Jones after the beatdown yesterday. Our man at Vinny Neckveins adds, enough said.
Yeah. We do have, it does feel like we have much better overall, offensively, defensively, much better team speed than we've had recently.
Yeah, I'm with you. But it is when the head coach, the opposing head coach is saying that, and you could tell, man, just let him at the end of that game, him walking across the field like by himself, no one else was coming over with him. The way that that game unfolded, the beatdown that Arkansas State received, it caused Butch Jones physical, emotional, and mental pain.
Yeah.
Which, sorry.
Yeah, that's just how it goes. And you have to expect some of that coming in, like whenever when you're an Arkansas State level program and you got some of those on your schedule, your players, your fan base, you know what's about to happen.
Yeah. All right. Birthday shout outs. Welcome to the world, Ellie James Winter.
Happy first birthday to Bandy Powell.
Happy 10th birthday to Carson Britton.
And happy 17th birthday to Sarah Ward.
All right. We got a couple of week 1 games to break down. But first,
John Vance Auto Group has been serving Oklahomans for 40 years, family owned and operated. They have 9 full service dealerships in Woodward, Miami, and Guthrie. No matter what your vehicle needs are, John Vance Auto Group has you covered. They carry domestic brands such as Ford, Lincoln, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, and Wagoneer. John Vance Auto Group's goal is to give unequaled service and to exceed customers' expectations in every way, which is why they have their lifetime loyalty program. And here's how it works. You buy a new or used cars from them. All you have to do is get all of the manufacturer recommended maintenance done at the Vance dealership. And if something goes wrong with the components of your engine, transmission, drive, axle, or transfer unit, they will cover the repair costs. It's a great deal. You can browse their entire inventory or find the John Vance dealership near you at vanceautogroup.com.
And attention business owners, you need Insurica in your life. Insurica is one of the country's largest insurance brokers with 30 offices throughout Oklahoma, Texas, and the Southwest. Insurica is able to customize programs by accessing the latest information from many insurance carriers. They compare and contrast coverage offerings and pricing in order to design a cost-effective, comprehensive program to meet your business's specific needs. If your business partners with Insurica, you'll save huge amounts of money and take back control of your total cost of risk. If your business wants to be best in class, connect with Insurica at Insurica.com. That's INSURICA.com. You want to do the garage read or you want me to? I feel like alternate. You do it. You do it. Come on.
Hey, you hungry out there? We'll head to the garage for hand smashed patties, butter toasted buns, and ice cold beer. The food is fantastic. And it's a perfect spot to watch any big game. Visit eatatthegarage.com to find a location near you and order online from the garage in your neighborhood.
Nailed it, man. You sound that's officially yours.
Feels good.
Congratulations.
Feels good.
Doesn't feel good as Deion Sanders in that Colorado team. Let's just start with this. We are idiots. I mean, you talk about 2 dudes being dead wrong about a football game. What a win for Coach Prime and for those players. That was awesome. Congratulations. That was really, really impressive, man.
I didn't get to see a whole heck of a lot of it, but I saw the end of the game, and they lined up and beat them. Right? They lined up and beat them, and they didn't look out us. For a 1-year total revamping of a roster, kudos.
Yeah, and that was the most impressive part about it. Colorado's ability. I watched the entire game this morning. Colorado's ability to respond in the fourth quarter. Right. Every time it felt like TCU was putting them away. Like, okay, here they're going to get a little separation. Great effort, Colorado, but TCU's going to end up winning, right? No. They answered every single time. And I thought the biggest play in the game, Travis Hunter makes an awesome catch on a 3rd and 16, right? Man, that guy is just ridiculous. But first of all, look good, feel good, play good. Those all whites from Colorado are beautiful.
It goes back to don't overthink it. Don't overthink the unis, baby. Especially in the whites. Simple is amazing.
Oh, looked awesome. But the Colorado offense is fun. Now, we knew they were going to spread it out, right, with Sean Lewis coming over from Kent State and being their OC. But Shedeur Sanders is good.
He's way bigger than I thought.
He's big. He's mobile. He's accurate. He's aggressive with the ball, right? I thought he was excellent in some of the scramble drill situations. I mean, he was fantastic.
I agree.
I mean, he outplayed Chandler Morris. Chandler Morris made a couple of massive mistakes, right? He essentially throws 2 interceptions in the end zone.
And whenever they had the drive to go down and have a chance to win the football game, he looked bad.
Yeah. But I thought Shedeur Sanders was really accurate and made good decisions with the football. And Dylan Edwards at the running back spot was electric, right? Took the screen to the house, just caught the ball well. He was just fun to watch. But Travis Hunter, he may be the story of college football, at least for the next week, until something else happens, because my goodness, we knew he was special. But really, I mean, to make the impact plays on both sides of the ball. And remember, he had a touchdown taken off the board because his foot was barely out of bounds, like on a jump ball, where he went over Josh Newton, who you and I both agree is a hell of a corner, and lost him.
Did I see somewhere that he played 120 total snaps?
Yeah. They're going to have to figure something out, right? I don't know if that's sustainable. If I was Colorado, he'd play more wide receiver, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked fantastic. Right?
You're just third down.
You're probably going to have to outscore teams if you're Colorado. But, I mean, TCU's defense, they didn't have many answers in the second half, right? They had, especially in the fourth quarter, multiple opportunities to essentially put the game away, right? Or it would have at least felt that way. Couldn't get off the field. And
well, let me ask you this, because you watched way more of the game than I did.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a little bit of both, but how much of it is Colorado way better than we thought and TCU not as good as we thought?
I would say both. Colorado, first and foremost, at the line of scrimmage, really physical. They held
the hardest thing to do whenever you revamp a roster.
Yeah, and it was the reason I thought they were going to struggle. I was like, oh, that's, Sanders, Hunter. But these guys, okay, they got some talented skill guys, but they're not going to be able to hold up at the line of scrimmage. Incorrect. Especially the offensive line. I thought their offensive line, for what I was expecting, those guys balled out, man. And you just, when you are in close games, you just cannot make the critical mistakes that TCU made. I mean, you essentially throw 2 interceptions in the end zone. Chandler Morris. And you just...
2 interceptions in the end zone, and on the last drive with a chance to go down the field, totally whiffs on a wide open... it's the number coming across the, almost a little screenplay, and he just totally whiffs, throws it behind the guy.
Yeah.
Easy first down.
Now, they also, TCU, I think, also missed a field goal. But I think this is the thing that stood out to me, right? There's this comparison, okay? Travis Hunter, everyone's talking about the interception that he had. And it was a spectacular individual play. But he's also clearly well coached. Ted, I feel like this is one of your defensive pet peeves. How many times around the goal line do we see teams run the pick play to the back to the 2 receiver side, and they don't pass it off in coverage, and the guy catches it and walks in the damn end zone? How many times do we see it? Constantly. TCU, first touchdown of the game for Colorado, I believe. TCU doesn't pass it off. Guy catches the ball on the running back swing pick play that every team in America runs. They don't pass it off. All the defensive guys are looking at each other going, is that you? Is that you? Is that me? Guy walks in the end zone. Touchdown. I want you to take a guess. What play TCU ran when Travis Hunter got the interception?
Same play.
Same play. And guess what Colorado did?
Pass it off.
They passed it off, and a spectacular athlete made a hell of a play. But guess what they knew was coming? The play that everyone in America runs.
Coaching, film study, attention to detail. It's hard to process all of that in especially a big moment, right? A lot of guys let the moment, like, I'm going to try and do something that I don't need to do, like go outside of what we've practiced to do something spectacular. Just do what you practiced.
Yeah. So Colorado, man, I don't know what their ceiling is this season, but I know this, they're going to be the talk of college football for the next week.
You're like, if you thought we've been saturated with some Colorado throughout the offseason, buddy, whoo, there's probably a 24/7 camera on Deion Sanders right now.
Oh, yeah. His YouTube channel, baby.
Well, I know someone that was at the game, and they said that it's almost like a paparazzi scene behind him everywhere he goes. It's just insane. At the game, at the press conference, after the press conference, in the locker room, it's just like a mass of people that follows him everywhere.
Well, it ain't slowing down. If anything, it's only going to grow.
I know it.
Because
congrats, man. I enjoy it. I think we need stuff like this in college football. I'm happy.
I'm with you. I think it's great. Now, obviously a big blow for Sonny Dykes and TCU, and you and I, we were dead wrong about this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
But doesn't mean that it's not fun. Like it adds a little more spice to this season, and
Pac-12 just got even more interesting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, even more interesting.
So is every team with a losing record this year going to cut their entire football team?
Yeah. I think some people are going to reevaluate how they go about it. All right, what a win for Colorado. What a start to the season for Deion Sanders and that group. My goodness. Now, let's go back and talk about that Florida-Utah game. I don't need to spend a lot of time on it, but Florida goes and gets beat. No shocker, right? Final score is 24-11. And Ted, there's a recipe, in my opinion, to going on the road and beating good teams, right? You got to run the ball efficiently, right? You got to be clean, right? You got to limit penalties. You got to play well on special teams, right? You got to dictate the tempo of the game, kind of keep the crowd out of it a little bit. Florida did pretty much everything you're hoping not to do in a road opener against a good football team.
Yeah.
That looked disorganized. It was
Yeah. Yeah, that's frustrating as a head coach. Football is such an interesting sport. I think it's why we love it, because it's not enough to just have better athletes. It's not enough to just be able to jump higher, run faster, be stronger. You have to have 100 guys on the same page operating at a high level. It's so cliche, but if you have great scout teams, if you have great, look teams on special teams, and there's just attention to detail, if the amount of games you can win by just lining up right, being assignment sound, you're going to get beat athletically at times, right? And there's not a lot you can do about that. But if you limit penalties, understand situational football, you can win a lot of games. And Utah's done that, and they also have added some really nice athletes in there as well. And that's why they're incredibly difficult to beat. And Florida was the opposite of that.
Yeah. And right, special teams were a mess for Florida. Right. When you get a penalty for having two guys on the field wearing the same number, Not good. Right? You have a punt returner, catch it inside the 5. It
Yeah.
just
Well, what I said
missed
about
field goals.
If I was a head coach and we got a penalty for a duplicate number, because it could be difficult. I don't there's a coach that's responsible for that, but there's a lot of moving parts in a football game. The last second, a guy may say, I broke a shoestring, I can't go out on special teams. Like, you're my backup, jog out there. But there's moving parts. Like, you have to, if he goes in, another guy has to come out. We got duplicate numbers. Like, there's a lot happening in a game. So if I get a penalty for that, which happens to be, it's a 5-yard penalty, but situationally, it's a massive mistake. Duplicates are done. We can fight to the death over who gets to keep the number 3. I'll throw the number 3 jersey on the floor in the locker room, and whoever survives and comes up with it can have it. We're done. I don't care what you wore in high school. I don't care what your favorite player in the NFL wears. Done. It can cost us a game. We can't, it's just, I don't want to live in the world where there's a mistake like that can pop up out of nowhere because someone cares what number they wear. I would eliminate it. But that's probably why I would suck as a head coach.
You're 37, buddy. Sorry. Deal with it.
That's it.
You wanted 3, you're 37. No, I hear you. But what you had, Florida had an illegal formation on 3rd and 1, a bunch of false starts, and now it's loud there in Salt Lake City, no doubt. But had one on like 3rd and 1. They had one on like 3rd and 1 inside the 10. It was sloppy. And I don't even know how critical to be of Graham Mertz.
Yeah.
I thought he was fine. Like, the dude didn't get any help around him. Run game was non-existent. The interception he throws goes right through Pearsall's hands. Catch the ball, dude. Hit your hands, catch the ball. Utah was down a bunch of starters, including quite a few on the defensive line, and the supporting cast around Graham Mertz just they did not win their battles. That include that O-line, the receivers, like, creating separation. I wasn't blown away by Utah by any means, but they were just such a more organized and just disciplined football team. I mean, what was that? Utah's B- game?
Yeah.
D+ game, B- game?
How many guys
playing a backup quarterback, playing 2 backup quarterbacks, like
2 best players out, and they still just unthreatened the entire time by Florida.
Never felt close.
Here's the thing, and it started before the game even kicked off with Florida. I do not expose your ignorance to the world. Whenever you look down your nose at someone else, and especially whenever you haven't won anything in a while, prepare. Utah is not an easy place to play. And I know that Florida's been hunkered down in the SEC for a long time and has probably been told by everyone the only good football that ever happens in the SEC, and no one cares about it anywhere else. Well, don't make a post like that before a game and try and laugh at how small Utah Stadium is and act like it's not going to be loud there. That is a tough place to win.
Did you see Utah Athletics tweet afterwards?
I saw them put it up there. What did they say something after the game too?
It was like the final score graphic. The caption was Lil W, like Lil Dub. It was so well done.
I agree. Hey man, you just show up prepared to play.
Yeah,
that's it.
Bryson Barnes, Nate Johnson, both guys. Good work, man. Managed the game well. I thought Nate Johnson came in right, little QB run game, some juice. Just a program that's got its identity. It's got stuff figured out, right? A disciplined football team that took it to a team that just looked like a mess. I don't know really how else to break that game down.
K-State West.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's finish up with our winners and losers of the weekend. But first,
Do you have difficulty sitting for long periods? Is this me? Am I reading the right one? Am I going
you can
first?
have it. The
Or is
hip
it
clinic.
you?
Yeah, you got it.
All right. You have difficulty sitting for long periods of time or can't lay on your side due to pain. Well, it's a hip thing, and the only person to see is Dr. Brandon Johnson at the Hip Clinic in Oklahoma City. No matter your age, the Hip Clinic has the experience and knowledge to help ease your hip pain and preserve your hip joint. Don't let the pain hold you back any longer. Don't just accept the hip replacement. Call the Hip Clinic today at 844 KEEP HIP or visit the hip clinic at okc.com.
The hip clinic, okc.com, I believe. And Bishop McGuinness Catholic High School represents a tradition of educational excellence in Oklahoma City. Grounded in a faith-based education, Bishop McGuinness offers a college prep curriculum that includes 22 AP courses, participation in OSSAA athletics, and numerous clubs and organizations for students to join and grow. If you want to provide the best possible educational and spiritual development for your children, contact Bishop McGuinness Catholic High School or visit bmchs.org. Financial aid is available. As always, Ted, kick us off. Who do you have as your winner of the weekend?
Well, did you watch? I'm sure you watched the North Carolina South Carolina game last night, right?
I did, and I just whoever convinced Carolina to wear the blue jerseys and South Carolina to wear, what do they call that? Like scarlet?
Yeah.
Love it. I love the home on home look in rivalry games like that. Love it.
Hey, hate to say it, but Mac Brown, 100 wins, 2 programs, pretty impressive. But here's what I thought about going with Sean McDonough in that game. Shame on the NCAA. How about that?
Broadcast? Yeah. Hey, McDonough's an outspoken guy, man. He'll let you know. He doesn't hide his feelings.
He was wearing them out. I thought that was pretty cool. But I ended up going with, hey, Milroe for Alabama. I know there was a lot of talk and a lot of people, suggesting Alabama's not going to be any good. They can't find a quarterback. And he went out and scored 5 touchdowns in their opener. Now, wasn't the best opponent in the world. We understand that, but he's the first person in Alabama history to throw for 3 and run for 2 in a game. That's pretty impressive. Put up some nice numbers, looked really solid, efficient, clean football game, and his athleticism is gonna take them a long way.
Yeah, he's the type of guy that if he wasn't a quarterback, he'd probably be starting for them in another position. Like that's how good of an athlete he is.
Mike linebacker or H or dude, like that's a big dude. He's like 6'2.5", almost 240 pounds.
And that's why, I picked Alabama to win the SEC. I picked them to go to the playoff. And one of the reasons why is I think that Tommy Rees with, first of all, shout out the 2014 East-West Shrine game. Let's go. That was my QB. Let's go, Tommy.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great guy. And I just thought he'd be able to maximize Milroe's skill set, right? Get real creative. And yeah, I'm excited to watch that offense this season. I think it's going to be really fun to watch.
No, I agree. They're going to expand. I imagine they're going to use him way more as a runner, and that could be difficult to deal with. That's going to be a good line of scrimmage football team.
Yeah, I'm with you. Good start for the Tide, and a big one next Saturday in Tuscaloosa. Texas versus Alabama.
We didn't talk about it, but Texas didn't look too hot.
That first half, they did not.
Quinn Ewers looked bad.
Well, I think we've said it a bunch. I'm not sold on the guy, man. But we don't have to wait long to see what he's got. Right? That's the biggest non-conference game in the country, in my opinion. So that is going to be we'll have a better understanding of what Ewers has after he goes down to Tuscaloosa next weekend. All right, who do you have as your loser of the weekend?
A painful one, Gabe.
I'm listening.
A lot of there's been a lot of talk about this. A lot of frustration building up to it, and then hey, University opens up Lindsey Street. opens up Lindsey Street for tailgating, right? We're going to change the path of the Champions Walk, right? Because we've opened up Lindsey Street. It's right there in the shadow of the stadium, an awesome place to tailgate. Sparse is doing it a favor. Now, I'm willing just this once to say it was a really, really hot football game. It was an 11 a.m. kick. Maybe it hasn't been open for tailgating for a long time, and maybe everyone didn't get the memo. But the fact that the pictures of Lindsey Street were totally empty for tailgating under that beautiful row of oak trees is frustrating, to say the least.
I saw the videos, I saw the pictures. It made me sad because I thought it was going to be full. Right. And a big deal has been made of that. Right. Now, our buddy Eddie Radosevich has made it like part of his life's mission to get Lindsey Street back to a high level when it comes to tailgating. And I'm with you. The fan base did not respond the way that I thought they would. And you get, do you give them a break one time? Because next weekend, there are no excuse. 5 o'clock kickoff, right? Against the Ponies. There are no excuses. You can't say, oh, Labor Day weekend. No. There are no excuses. And just so you know, SMU's a good team.
They are. They
got speed at the skill positions. I've already started watching. They can run. And that it needs to be, you know, with what I saw, and I didn't walk over there, but with what I saw from the pictures and videos, that's just, it's unacceptable, right?
We had a bunch of good recruits in.
Yeah. Bunch of big recruits.
I don't know. How should I feel? Should I feel like we need a better game? We need a better kickoff time?
It's the opener, man.
Those are all excuses. I mean, I'm giving a lot of leeway there. I don't know, man. It's not very good.
Got a chance to redeem themselves next Saturday, right?
Here's the frustrating thing, man. And you want a championship level football team, right? Isn't that what everyone wants? We're pissed off that we're not a championship level football team. And it has to be, in order to get to that level, it's not the same as it used to be. You have to be the best at everything. And environment matters. Kids want to go play in an awesome environment. Now, inside the stadium Saturday, full crowd, energetic. I thought the atmosphere inside the stadium was good, all things considered. You can't have I don't expect it to look like the Notre Dame game you played at in 2012. It's just not going to look like that against Arkansas State. And I recognize that. That's fine. But you've got to create the visual experience that is as good as everyone else in the country. And frankly, it just is not there. It's not. And I don't know why it's not. I don't know. It's frustrating.
If you have any suggestions, let us know. Tweet us at OK_breakdown. If you have any suggestions to get it going over there on Lindsey Street, let us know, because it's important. That is going to be the last thing the opposing team sees when they pull in. Right? That strip. And do you think Arkansas State was like, oh man, this is going to be a tough one when they pulled in and saw that?
It's weird. You know, I'm interested to see what the suggestions are, because it's there, it's available, and it's free, and it's an awesome spot. It's in the shade. I don't know what else. Like, You want someone to pay you to show up there? Is that the next step? Is that what we got to do? Maybe, I mean, maybe everyone thought that since it's like prime real estate that there's no way we'll get a spot there, so they didn't try. I don't know.
But dude, I'm with you. I was really surprised with what
Shocked.
it looked like. Chance to redeem yourself, Sooner Nation,
Go, folks.
Saturday.
Hey, I've seen this place be as good as anywhere in the country, right? When we have the right games, but we got to figure out how to get it like that every single weekend. And it's hard. I mean, I get it. This isn't just an Oklahoma thing, right? This is something that's going on across the country at a bunch of different places. There's a lot more things to compete with on a Saturday than there's ever been. I get it, but we got to get better.
I'm with you. Agreed. All right, let's get to my winner and loser. But first, you want this one or you want me? We have not.
I screwed it up the last time. I should not have taken it out of the gate. I messed that up. This one is yours.
Okay. First Fidelity Bank is a full-service financial institution based in Oklahoma with tailored solutions for all your personal and business needs, checking accounts, saving accounts, home loans, and much more. They do it all. Whether it's online banking from your computer or mobile banking from your phone, everything is stress-free with FFB. Making mobile deposits, paying bills online, and moving money to different accounts could not be easier. Come on, people, make your life easier and go bank with First Fidelity Bank. Visit ffb.com for more information.
I just gave Florida all kinds of shit for showing up, unprepared, not being sound, and I have a false start. Right?
It's okay.
False start in the opener, man. Unbelievable.
It's okay. It's our first game recap episode of the season, right? Working the kinks out.
Oh my gosh. Head to opolisclothing.com for our podcast merchandise and the best OU gear out there. That's opolisclothing.com, OPOLIS clothing.com. Use promo code TED, TED for 10% off. That's opolisclothing.com. Use promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off.
All right, for my winner of the weekend, I'm going with Texas State.
Woo.
GJ Kinney, former Tulsa QB when I was playing, Ted. In his first game as the head coach there at Texas State, they went down to Waco and put it on Baylor, 42-31. And this is, it is their first Power 5 win. First ever win over a Power 5 opponent, and they went on the road and did it at Baylor. Thought Baylor's offense was okay. Now, I will say, it's never good when your home crowd boos you because you're false starting so much.
Yeah.
That's a big yikes.
Man,
but the issue of Baylor's defense got carved up by Texas State. TJ Finley was fantastic. He was awesome with his arm. He extended plays with his legs. Then he used his legs in some called QB run game, had some explosive plays. He outplayed Blake Shapen. Right? When you talk about the QB comparison. Now, Shapen injures the knee, came back in, clearly wasn't right, had to go back out. I guess Randa said it's an MCL, so that's something to keep an eye on moving forward. But just a bad night for the Bears, right? The backup comes in, just throws a back-breaking interception in the end zone with about 4 minutes left when the game was still in the balance. But, man, Texas State goes and gets it done. How about that? What the Bobcats? They're the Bobcats, I think.
I think that's right. That's just absolutely brutal. It had been a really weird offseason for Baylor. Just super quiet. I don't know. I wasn't really sure what to think of them, and that's going to be a tough one to bounce back for Baylor.
Yeah, and just a reminder, Baylor, Dave Aranda fired his defensive coordinator, who is kind of his mentor.
Yeah.
And that guy's now at Auburn. And that guy got his little subtle jab of a tweet in.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. A little spicy. So just a disaster of an opener for Baylor. Your new look defense, right, with your new coordinator looks terrible, and your starting quarterback gets hurt.
Ouch.
And it doesn't get any easier. You know who comes to Waco next weekend?
Who's that?
Utah.
Oof. Ouch.
Yeah, this was supposed to be like the warm-up game. Not good. Not good. All
Yeah,
right, for my loser of
that's
the
tough for
weekend.
Baylor.
Yeah, not good. For my loser of the weekend, thought about going with anyone that bet on West Virginia to cover the 20.5. Oh, brutal, right? Penn State with their backup runs QB draw with the under 10 seconds to go. He carries multiple West Virginia defenders into the end zone to cover the spread. Just ouch, man. Now, that game as a whole, I thought West Virginia was pretty competitive. Garrett Green, he just needed to be special for the Mountaineers to have a chance in that game. He missed a lot of throws. Guys didn't come down with some competitive plays that would have been huge in that game for him. And just they lost to a more talented team, obviously. But yeah, just ouch. Last play of the game, essentially. And if you were on the West Virginia side of things, that was one where you kind of melt into your couch like, oh, why?
Yeah, that's tough. I didn't get to see much of the game. I saw a couple of the plays just whenever it was splattered in a highlight run, but I think that's a tough game for West Virginia to open up with, right?
Yeah.
Just brutally tough. Penn State's a good squad right now. I thought they showed well, though. I mean, you give the score doesn't do justice to how tight it was and how they fought for the most of the game. And I think West Virginia is going to be they're definitely not going to be last in the Big 12 like they were picked, which, was kind of a shock that happened, but I guess I understand it to a certain point. Who else are you going to pick to be last? It's weird, but yeah, we'll learn more about them against Pitt. And I think there's pretty decent chance they win that football game.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope they do. Right. Everyone knows big Neil Brown guy right here. So I'm hoping Neil can win that game and get some positivity rolling in that program. Now, my loser of the weekend. Now, this is a program that had all the positivity in the world, right? Coming into the season. Successful year one under Joe McGuire. Everyone loves the guy. High expectations. A lot of talk from the fan base, right? About how good they're going to be this year. And, well, they were feeling themselves and went to Laramie, Wyoming, and are coming home with an L via the Wyoming Cowboys and just jumped out to a big lead, right? I mean, Texas Tech all over Wyoming earlier, 17-0 in the blink of an eye, and just got very little from the offense the rest of the way. It was really strange. A lot of Tyler Shuck love, right, coming into the season as well. I thought he was average at best in this game. But if you're Tech, like it's Wyoming, you got to go up there and be able to run the football, right? They couldn't.
Yeah.
Wyoming controlled things at the line of scrimmage, man. It ended up in overtime. Anything can happen in OT, and lost the game, man.
It's one of those where you show up, things go really good early, and it's so difficult to let off the gas and then realize you're in trouble and then try and get back into it and fight the momentum and fight. It's so difficult, and it feels like that's kind of what happened, and they just couldn't respond. You get into overtime, you get punched in the mouth. Wyoming makes a really nice play on a blitz. That quarterback, that was nice. That little hot route to the tight end, and then just
it's also busted coverage.
Yeah,
right. He is uncovered.
Right.
You got two guys covering the same wide receiver. You're running zero. Not the time to bust.
Nope. And hey, I credit them for doing it. Then they steamroll their way into the walk in for the 2-point conversion. Give Wyoming credit. I don't know if it was maybe there's a little bit of look ahead with Baylor. Maybe there's a little look ahead with Tech, because it ain't getting easier for Tech either.
The Oregon Ducks come to Lubbock.
That's right.
Next Saturday. And you look at overtime. Because I feel like Texas Tech, they've got this reputation now of being hyper aggressive, right? With all the fourth down stuff. the first overtime, Wyoming scores, kick the extra point. Tech scores. And listen, I guess I understand the thought process from Joey McGuire. It's like, hey, you feel like you have the more talented football team. Like the longer this thing goes, we got an advantage. But you've been this super aggressive guy. You got one play to go win the game, and you kick the PAT. I thought that was kind of interesting. And they end up not converting on that. Remember, now in the second overtime, you got to go for 2. And they don't convert theirs. And then, did you watch the 2-point conversion for Wyoming?
Yeah. Steamroll.
What Tech has a safety standing 8.5 yards deep in the end zone. And it's like the guy needs a damn invitation to come fill in the run. It's one of the more bizarre things I've ever seen. I watched it 10 times trying to figure out. I was like, what is this guy doing? But yeah, Wyoming just mauls him off the rock, and the dude walks in.
Yep, walks in.
It's like, hey, man, the quarterback goes, kill, kill, kill. The back flip sides. If they're going to run it, they're going to run it away from where the back is lined up. What are we doing?
Defending against something that didn't happen, apparently. It's like, that's tough. That's brutal.
Yeah, but that was a nice play by the Peasley kid on the 0 blitz. What was it, like 4th and 7 on that play too?
Yeah.
I mean,
he's like going down as he throws it.
Yeah, he's just getting cut in half in the thighs as he's letting it go and just stood in there. That was big time. But I will say there was a lot of Tech hype. This guy didn't buy it. Picked him to go 6-6 on my radio show.
I didn't buy it either. No, I don't. They just had.
I did not think they were going to lose this one. I will say.
Yeah, they had a lot to replace, and I know McGuire's going to recruit really well. I don't know that they're in a place to, like, right out of the gate. They had like 10 seniors on their defense. I lost a first-round draft pick off their defensive line, like the only first-round draft pick Tech's probably ever had. I mean, they're 2 really good running backs that have carried the ball for them forever. They just lost a ton of pieces, and I thought that was a bit dramatic how everyone was picking Texas Tech.
Joey McGuire's just so likable.
They're still going to get. I still think they're going to be pretty solid this year, though.
Yeah, I just think it's going to take time.
Yeah,
right. I think it's going to take time.
Oregon, though.
Yeah, good luck with the Ducks. What did they score? Did you see the Duck had to do like 500 and something push-ups? They scored 81 in their game. So good.
Get ready for a dose of quarterback run game. Like, Oregon's good on the line of scrimmage.
Very good. That O-line's legit. Extremely talented. So yeah, I'm kind of pissed that Tech went and lost that game. Right. And I know a lot of OU fans will be like, well, their fan base is talking all off season about how good they're going to be. Some people are saying, hey, maybe a dark horse for the playoff.
Did someone someone nationally pick them to win the Big 12 and go to the playoff?
I'm sure someone did. It wasn't me, though. I know that. But I hate that. I was excited for that game, right? And now all the sizzle of Tech Oregon is, it's gone.
I think it'll still be. You'll
still going to be a fun game.
You'll see Tech at their best. I mean, whatever that is. I don't think it's nearly as good as a lot of people thought, but they'll still be way better than they were against Wyoming.
If you can't run the rock against Wyoming, or all of a sudden you'll be able to run it against Oregon, I don't know, man. Concerning.
You know what? It's interesting that sometimes teams that haven't had a whole lot of success, when they do have some success and they do have some hype, there's a very quick entitlement that feels like people are now all of a sudden going to lay down for them. Not the case. You're actually going to start to get way better effort from everybody.
Yeah. And on that note, episode 350 in the books. How about that? 350. It's
impressive.
We'll have a new podcast.
I've committed to anything so long in my life. For work wise, this has been great.
Look at us go. All right, we'll have a new podcast that'll drop Wednesday. We'll be previewing OUSMU, obviously. Just a reminder, you can hear Teddy from 3 to 6 on the ref. You can hear me on Sirius XM Radio, channel 375 from 2 to 5. Hope you all have a fantastic start to your week. And until next time, we appreciate y'all for listening and do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.